Hey everybody, Will Keeler and Jonathan Estes here with Roll for Crit, and we're here with another movie review.
Yeah, another movie review. We have done a couple before in the past. It's not something we normally do. Normally this is a board game themed channel, but this is a special weekend. It's a special occasion because the movie Game Night was just released, and that has to do with board games.
Of course.
That's what we do.
Let's give a quick synopsis. It's about a gaming group that becomes very angry with each other after a game of Battlestar Galactica. Drift apart, and then the final main character decides to give up board gaming, and the movie ends with him selling his copy of Twilight Imperium.
It's surprising that they went in that far to the hardcore side of things. No, they didn't do any of that stuff. It's not about that at all. As a matter of fact, this is a comedy. Stars Jason Bateman, Rachel McAdams, and many others. Directed by John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, who also brought us... They also directed the Vacation movie that came out recently, but they are the writers of Horrible Bosses 1 and 2, as well as Spider-Man Homecoming. And the actual plot of the movie basically is, it is a group of people. They are at a game night. But the main character, Jason Bateman's brother... He plans a special murder mystery for them, and things go awry.
Yeah, and I just realized we're probably showing the trailer while I said this stuff before, so it's even more stupid.
No, I'm going to put in a fake trailer with Battlestar Galactica footage. Don't worry about it. So we can talk later about the board game side of things and whether or not any of it really connects to people who are board game fans. But we start with just the movie itself. We just saw it. We both like comedy. We both like...
I think we're... Yeah, I think that's not a...
We're pro-comedy. We're pro-Jason Bateman. What did you think of this film?
I mean, I thought it was all right. It was funny. I mean, the jokes are pretty good. I haven't seen a lot of his work recently, so admittedly I can't compare his movies.
Jason Bateman?
Yeah, I also haven't seen either of the Horrible Bosses, so I can't...
Oh, really? But you did see Spider-Man,
I was with you with that, so yeah.
The Horrible Bosses, I've only seen the first one. I do like it. I will say, if you've seen Horrible Bosses, the tone and style of that, even though they didn't direct that movie, very similar. Like, they feel very much of a piece, these movies.
It definitely, I mean, I remember the trailer, and it definitely feels like that kind of...
I mean, it's an action comedy for sure. It does that thing where it's people who are in over their heads in a crazy situation.
And they have a plan, and the plan goes like 180.
There's a lot of the audience knows something that the characters don't, which sometimes in movies I think can be frustrating because as an audience member, especially when you've seen that used so many times, you're kind of like, okay, we know they're gonna find out eventually. We know what's gonna happen. She's gonna, and this is in the trailer, she's gonna shoot the gun and say, oh, it's not a real gun, but guess what it is.
Well, it does have that kind of thing, but I don't think it's as bad because I do feel like things tended to go pretty quickly. I
thought that once, and we're not going to give spoilers for this movie, so I'm going to be vague, but once they kind of start to get past that point of that early period where no one knows what's going on, I thought things did pick up a lot and got more interesting.
I think that's the thing. It didn't have that sort of they didn't know what's going on for the entire movie.
Right.
You know, the curtain was open for them pretty early on, which allowed them to see these people realize the crazy situation they're in, which makes it a lot more interesting.
And it does, again, I'm going to not give anything away, but there are twists and turns. And I think that's also sort of a thing that going into a movie like this, when you know what the premise is of characters being in the dark and something being revealed, I feel like you expect there to be like at least one or two final twists of, it's kind of like when if there's a movie like that's about dreams, like an Inception, you're like,
or directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
you're gonna be thinking like, okay, so it is a dream or it's not a dream, or it's gonna be like some kind of a double twist. So I think it's a tough thing to navigate that sometimes, to keep the audience guessing. I think this movie, the way they get around that is they basically distract you by just throwing in comedy and action scenes, so you're not thinking as much about the plot in the back of your head. And it's a really great cast. Jason Bateman is really funny. Kyle Chandler, who plays his brother, who I've never seen him play he's basically just playing like a dirtbag, which he's usually the role model. So that was fun to see him do that. Jesse Plemons is their weird next door neighbor, a guy I think a lot of game groups have that they don't want to invite to game night, so they have to lie about game night too, which is a pretty funny role, and it's also very, very creepy. I think the cast honestly does a lot of the heavy lifting. If you had lesser actors, this wouldn't be nearly as much fun.
No, I completely agree. All the cast did a great job.
Yeah, they were fun to watch.
Yeah.
Fun to hang out with for a couple of hours.
It was nice to when the wool is pulled off of their eyes. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, isn't that? But I do love how they still had, because it's a comedy, like still normal stuff. It's like, why'd you get that too? Well, because I want it for later.
They kind of have a couple of comedy subplots that are happening throughout the movie that are unrelated to the main plot. It honestly feels structured like a TV show in that you have like 3 sets of characters, and you kind of do have an A plot, B plot, C plot, which is interesting, but it works, I think.
Yeah, it didn't pull too much from the other. It just enough that sort of like when you expect the tension to go high, and all of a sudden they just that totally not important thing, you know.
Yeah, right. Of course, the setups and payoffs are definitely there. I'll say one of my major issues with the tone of the movie, there's a lot of pop culture references, which normally I mean I don't mind that just inherently, but some of it felt forced, where a lot of times characters, like there were several moments where characters would be like, oh, this is just like that thing that happened in Taken 3.
Oh, yeah, that's
which is literally a line in the movie, and it's like, I feel like if you have to dig down into Taken 3, I feel like it's a placeholder for what could have just been a joke, instead of just like 5 years from now, is anyone going to watch the person mention Taken 3 or whatever and think that's really funny? I think they're just going to be like, what was Taken? And someone's going to have to be like, remember that guy Liam Neeson?
I mean, that's definitely the thing, but I did sort of like that, going back to the whole normalcy thing, partly also because in response to that, the guy goes, he does in the movie, implying he hasn't seen it.
Right.
So it's sort of that.
It wasn't all backfires. Some of them did land for me. As part of it, I think, was sometimes the characters, I didn't feel like they necessarily, like they didn't.
Right, no, I completely agree. I'm just saying that one worked well, but yeah, there is that sort of timely thing, but I think a lot of comedies are relying on that more now. It's sort of, we're going for our audience now. This isn't going to be the Ghostbusters, which people are going to want to.
Right. It's of the moment very much. It's which is fine. I mean, that's, sometimes you want a movie to do that. Some things you want it to.
And it's not as bad as some other offenders.
Yeah, it's not like Scary Movie or something where or one of those ripoffs of Scary Movie. But overall, I mean, I thought it was fun. Similar to the way I feel about Horrible Bosses, it's a movie that you can see, you will laugh, you'll have a good time, but you probably will forget about it the next night. Like, I don't think this is a classic in the making or anything like that. The jokes that aren't going to stick with me, I don't imagine.
We should also point out this probably isn't the movie to go to if you're really like, oh boy, I can't wait for all these board game references.
Yeah, so let's talk about, since this is a board game channel.
What games did we actually see in this entire movie?
Well, in the very, very beginning, when they are showing the title cards, there's a weird like CG thing where they show pieces from Monopoly and Scrabble and a couple other games falling through the sky. Then you see them playing mostly games like very traditional games.
I recall Jenga, Scrabble, Monopoly, and Life were, in terms of either played or mentioned. Battleship.
You also see stuff like charades, Pictionary. There's a scene where they play Taboo, which I think might be the closest to a more real game that you see.
I mean, I understand why, because, I mean, as you said, a movie that's made for the moment is going to try to cast its biggest net at the time. So they're not going to put in something that's a bit more niche.
I mean, to be fair, if you go to the average game night of people, like the age of the people in this movie, you're going to see the games they were playing in this movie.
No, I would have been, I understand that. I just really wished, I mean, for me, and I don't think it's too much of a stretch, if, like, one scene, they just carry some board games in. Like, it's not really them playing it. They don't even mention them. But, like, if they had Catan, I'm not asking for Twilight Imperium here.
Yeah, I could see a Catan reference. I think I was thinking
Catan and Munchkin wouldn't be too hard.
In terms of actually playing, it is I think it's very hard to make those games dynamic to watch.
It's not really about an actual board game. It's not like it's not Jumanji. We got sucked into the game.
Right.
This is about a murder mystery, which for some people is like, that's not board game night. For others, that would fall under.
Actually, that's night. In that regard, the murder mystery, it wasn't a murder mystery like a dinner party murder mystery. It was more like an escape room kind of thing where they had to actually solve riddles and stuff like that. That kind of gets dropped very early on, but I did think that was kind of fun because that did feel reminiscent of when we've actually done things like that.
Well, it was also funny to me was the seeing when they broke up into pairs before they realized that it was sort of pointless. Of trying to solve the mystery, we actually saw 3 very different ways.
Yes.
Which is hilarious because I feel like that's sort of one goes straight, completely legitimate. One goes like the Top Gear way, we're just gonna cheat our way through this.
Yeah, it's a good mix.
And then one person just reads the last chapter of the book.
The different kinds of players that are there. I definitely think that if you have a regular game night, and if you did watch this with the group of game nights, you would kind of there's a little bit of like, oh, haha, that's like you. That's just like old Chuck. He always plays games like that, I think there's just enough of it in there to spice it up, which is all I really expected. I don't think anyone thought this was going to do more than that, or should. I mean, I don't think it would have helped.
But I mean, I think it was, as you said. I think you're gonna be fine with your movie ticket probably. Unless you bought like 3 things of popcorn and drink.
Yeah, I thought this was like a solid B movie. It was fun. It was a good time. If you like Jason Bateman and you like those kinds of comedies like Horrible Bosses, you'll have fun with it. So it is game night. It's in theaters right now.
Don't go there for a lot of board game references, but if you're just looking for a good laugh, definitely worth your time.
Get those chuckles in. So this has been a Roll for Crit movie review. Let us know what you thought of the movie. If there's any board game themed movies you want to hear us talk about in the future. Otherwise, we'll just go back to actual board games, and this will just be a special thing. I'm Jonathan Estes.
And I'm Will Keeler. And this is Roll for Crit.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave some comments down below.
Yeah.